Said that.
We're not going to do the big long thing. We're just going to cut to the question. And the question on everyone's mind is, what is a book marketer and how is that different from a book publicist?
Yeah. That's a great question. And thank you for having me, Sharon. It's really fun to reconnect. So a lot of publishers will have someone who does marketing and publicity. So particularly like smaller independent publishers that aren't part of the big five, the same person will be doing marketing and publicity. And then if you go up to like the big five publishers or various independent publishers, will also split it between marketing and publicity. So that's kind of always been my track is just focusing on the marketing rather than marketing and publicity. But I do know what those folks do because we sat next to each other. So I think of marketing as anything that's paid, anything you pay for. So advertising, or your own online promotion, which when I think about paid, I think about, paying to boost a Facebook post. So basically marketing is like you promoting yourself on your platform, your social media, your website, those kinds of things. And then any paid advertising that you do, like print ads or online ads or anything like that. Publicity is all unpaid. So that's a really good way to kind of think about the umbrella of it. So that'll be like media, interviews, book reviews are considered under the publicity umbrella. Media coverage, those kinds of things fall under publicity. One thing that, more recently, like in the last 5 years, has come up that sort of straddles the line is influencer marketing. So this you may have seen if you're on Instagram or Facebook, people, saying like, I love Oreo cookies and my kiddos love to eat them, right before bed. Mom life, #ad. So that would be a sponsored post. So that would be marketing because it's paid. But some publishers will do things like launch teams, which maybe some of you have been involved in. If an author has a large following, they may call on some of their followers to help amplify their message when the book comes out. Sorry, I'm going to try not to use jargon like amplify your message. But let's say that I have a book coming out and you all are my newsletter subscribers and you're like, yeah, I want to support you. I will send you promotional images and sample text that you can use on social media. And we'll do a big, campaign like everybody announce on this day, use this hashtag. So that is marketing because it's not paid, but it is kind of like those influencer posts because you're trying to leverage someone else's reach. So the people that they can see, like Sharon is connected to you all, I'm connected to a different group of people. But if we were working together on something like that, we would be reaching both groups.
So that sounds fine. I mean, that's actually a really great rule of thumb that what you pay for in terms of developing your brand with advertising or your web presence and all that, and then publicity, like getting the word out there and getting people to give you free time. That's useful. But the question then for most writers would be, well, but isn't that what the publisher is going to do? Like you yourself work for a publisher, so it's like, won't the publisher take care of all of that? So why should authors really start to pay attention to this and take on some responsibility themselves?
Well, I mean, one thing, and this is sort of the most idealistic version, is that you put so much work into the book. Why not keep working to make sure it's successful and reaches the most people possible? So like you really believe in this thing and you want to support it. So as much as you can do to support it, you in theory want to do that. But the other thing is that publishers have limited resources. I mean, they have a lot more resources than like I do on my own. I don't have a $50,000 budget for a best-selling book, but there are only so many people and only so many budget dollars that they can commit. So like when I was working at HarperCollins, we would have authors who came in and they're like, what are you going to do? And then we would start from zero. Then we would have authors who came in and said, okay, I have my list of, top 5 people online who I'm really connected to. And I think they'll share about the book. These people have podcasts, and I know that they'll, if we reach out, they will have me on their podcast. These are the media outlets that I've written for before. So if you can do some of that groundwork to, if from attending this or doing more research, like what publishers are going to do in terms of marketing and publicity, you can lay the groundwork for that yourself. And your book the best. So you also are going to be in a unique position to pitch it. So that means, for both publicity pitches, if you're pitching a New York Times op-ed, you may have an angle on a certain topic that the publicist may not think of when they read the manuscript. Or in terms of marketing, I really think like women in this age range are really going to resonate with this because it's about the 1970s. Or something like that. So you're going to know those topics the best, and you can kind of work ahead by doing that research and pulling it all together. That's going to, honestly, you're going to be your publisher's like favorite person because they're going to be glad that you did that work and that you really understand. It sets them up for success too, to like start from here instead of here with how they're pitching and who they're reaching out to. And then it also kind of indicates that you're a partner rather than someone coming in and saying like, what can you do for me? Someone who comes in and says, the action kind of indicates, I'm really happy about this opportunity and I want to make the most of it. So let's work together to make the most of it.
On top of that, though, having been a publisher myself, there are like realities in publishing that I think that most authors are not aware of. So seeing as I don't want to be the baddie who tells them this information, I'm gonna make you tell them, like, how long do these lists last for? Like, how long do you have to work on a book before you have to go work on another book?
Yeah.
Or, actually on a daily basis, how many offer lists, when you were at Harper, how many offer lists would you be working on at any one time? How many books?
Yeah, publishing timelines are so long. So I would be working on, let's say, a year out, I would know that I would have, 5 or 6 titles going on sale, next fall. And then currently I'd be working on 5 or 6 that were going on sale at that time. And then another 5 or 6 that are in between. And everybody splits it up differently. It depends on capacity and how intense the titles are, like how the expectations are for the book. But that gives you a better sense of like, when I say like they have limited resources, it's like there's me and I'm working on your book, but I'm also working on a bunch of other books. So I'm
on top of that, you get moved off these projects, right? Because then the next list comes in 3 months later.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. And so publicity pitching will definitely, and these are, the media pitches, the book reviews, the interviews, that will typically continue for a few months after the book goes on sale. But generally, publishers want to concentrate as many sales, as much buzz all around the week of the on sale date. So everything's really going to happen then. And then it will peter off from there, unless the book really takes off, and then they're going to get more budget to like keep going because they're like, oh, wow, this is really selling. But typically for an average book like that I would have worked on at Harper, after about 3 months after the on sale date, I wasn't really talking to the author anymore at all. So another good reason to kind of start thinking about how you're going to create your own infrastructure for how you support the book, heading into being published, is because you also want that afterward, because like, this is your baby, it's not over for you when it goes on sale. Like, it sounds cheesy, but like, it's just beginning. So you want to continue to support it and find ways to like integrate it into things that you're doing, events, continue to promote. So yeah, you can kind of expect your publisher to sort of quietly wave goodbye around 3 months after the book goes on sale, give or take. Of course, they'll say like, yeah, shoot us an email if anything comes up or you have an opportunity, but that intensive period is really going to be concentrated around the on sale day.
Right, and isn't it true that that intensive period is also like if you've got a list of 50 books, you're not going to market, like you're not going to put, your marketing budget isn't like 1/50th to every book, right?
Yes, it is not an egalitarian budgeting process. So each book has expectations. Let's say you've got like Stephen King and then, a first-time author. They're not going to get the same amount of resources because Stephen King's going to sell a bunch of books because he always does. So he gets more money because it's more of a sure thing. And most publishers, and the qualifying thing here is most big five publishers, Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon and Schuster, those guys, they are working on a bestseller model. So really what they want is those big bestsellers, the Stephen Kings, like Will Smith just had a memoir, like that's top of the list for the publisher. They're looking for those to carry the sales for the year. And it's kind of a bonkers business model, I think, because you publish, let's say, 20 books a season, and you're hoping that one or two of them just blows it out of the water. And then the other one, it's like gambling a little bit, but that is how they do it. The caveat there is that independent publishers, smaller publishers, academic publishers too, if anyone's working in nonfiction, they are going to spread resources around much more evenly because they don't have that expectation of bestsellers. So it's kind of because they don't have the precedent of a book really, really taking off and carrying the list that they don't structure their business model that way. So you may get more of a balanced budget. But when I was at Harper, so I would work on a book that had big expectations, let's print 50,000 copies in the first print run, assuming that those are going to sell pretty quickly.
You
And then I would
15 or 50, sorry.
50.
Mhm.
So I would be working on one of those, and then maybe 3 that actually had 15 copy or 1,000 copy print runs. So you can imagine, let's say a book budget is $100, which it's not. I'm going to get $100 for the 50,000 because the expectations are high, and I'm maybe going to get $20 for the one that has 15,000 print run.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So anyway, so then in terms of pragmatics then, so I think that the message so far is, I think that my mom said it all once when she was watching me publish a book, and she saw all the work that went into the writing, and then she was a little surprised that so much work goes into the editing and and getting it on press, and when it was off press, all the work that went into marketing. And she was like, "Oh, my expectation was that the work stopped way over there." And I think that a lot of writers also have, debut writers had that same thing. Well, I've written my book and I've sold it and now I'm done. So I think that so far we've established it's still really competitive even after you've got your publisher. And it's a competition now against the rest of the publishers list, because as you start to do better, they start to give you more money. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, that is the case. And if you want to write a second book, they're going to be looking at the sales for your first book. Also, if you get an advance, you need to sell a certain number of copies to start making royalties. So even more than just I love my book, I want it to do well. You have legit skin in the game to try to get people to buy the book because that will make you money.